Hey, it's Mr. V, and we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, taxes. So buckle up. First things first, taxes, in a general sense, are when we pay money to our government. We don't necessarily always want to do this, but it's one of those things you just got to do. There are two kinds of taxes. There's a direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax, as the screen here says, is when you have to pay money that comes out of your personal income rather than on, like, say, an additional tax that bumps up the cost of, like, the purchase of a product. Okay, so that's what an indirect tax is, when you have to pay a little extra expense when you do certain actions or when you buy certain products. So I mentioned income tax a minute ago. Corporate tax and property tax are also direct taxes. The government just takes the money from you. But the two examples of an indirect tax would be what we call an excise tax, which we'll learn about in a minute, and sales tax, which we probably already know what that is when you have to buy something at the store and you got to pay an extra. So there are 6 different types of taxes that we're going to talk through, 1 through 5, 6. And so let us begin with number 1. The first one is an excise tax. Excise tax is going to be, it's going to feel a lot like a sales tax. It's a tax that's put on the purchase of certain products. So when you buy them, you have to pay more than the actual price, right? So again, that's very similar to a sales tax, but the only difference is that it's a federal tax, whereas a sales tax, we'll see in a little bit, is a state tax. Okay, the money goes to the federal government rather than to a state, although states can add excise tax technically. And also, the other big difference is that it's not on every product in the economy or in the country or in the store. It's a specific set of products. And so, for example, there are excise taxes placed on cigarettes or other tobacco products, alcohol, gasoline, for a few reasons. Number one, raising the price through taxes limits how much people can afford. And since those things are pretty bad for us, the government wants to stop us from buying too much. And in a general sense, they're good ways for the government to make money. Okay. This used to be the main way our government got its tax revenue, by putting excise tax on the sale of whiskey and other things like that. However, that has changed. So, anyways, here's a map. Cool. All right, number 2. I've talked about it. Here it is officially. It's sales tax. Sales tax, you know what this is. It's when you walk into the store and you buy a pack of gum. On the price it says 99 cents, but you better have more than $1 in your pocket, right? You got to have like $1.08 or something like that. This is another indirect tax. And this is a state thing. It's not a federal thing. It's a state thing. So each state gets to decide its own sales tax rules and sales tax rates and stuff like that. 4 states don't have it, and they're listed there. And that's all we need to know about sales tax. So it's a state moneymaker. And there's another map. Number 3 is property tax. Property tax is money that you pay when you own a home or land or a building or other property. It's a local tax, and it is a direct tax. It's a local tax because what happens is when you pay property tax, your money goes, for the most part, to the local government and some to the state level of the government as well, but it doesn't go to the federal government. And this is money that local government uses to fund things like public schools, public libraries, parks, other stuff in the community, which is why, Gurnee, we've got a pretty nice library and a pretty decent high school and this and that and the other thing, right? So it's our property taxes that help pay for those things. And here's another map. I don't know why these are in here. Look at the map. Okay, moving on. Number 4, individual income tax. This is the big one. This is the one that takes money out of your paychecks. So when I got my first job at Frank's Nursery and Crafts when I was 16 years old after my sophomore year of high school, I got paid $6.50 an hour. My first week, I worked 10 hours. I expected to get $65. Didn't. Obviously, the government took some taxes away. I only got like 40. I was super disappointed. But that's the way it goes. When you earn an income, the government takes money out of that before you ever get it. This is the biggest one. This is the biggest moneymaker for our government. And in fact, it has been challenged so many times that the Congress had to create, well, not the Congress, the government created an amendment to the Constitution to allow the government to do this. And uh, so the 16th Amendment, it basically said that the government can do this. Because previously, before that had happened, the government had been sued when they tried to take people's money. People were like, that's my money, you can't take it. And so they had to stop, but then they just made an amendment to the Constitution. They're like, actually, we can. So thanks, government. Uh, Here's a picture of a map. Okay. Number 3, methods of paying your taxes. Oh yeah, I forgot this was in here. So this is about how you have to do your taxes. You know how every once a year, usually around January or February, it becomes tax season. What this is it's you having to confirm that you've paid the right amount of tax to the government that year. And so the IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Service, is the part of our government that oversees taxes, have a number of different ways that you can do this. Nowadays, most people use the internet and they e-file. They send their information and they plunge it into websites like TurboTax or TaxAct.com or other places, and you can do your taxes online. It's a lot easier than it used to be, which used to be you'd have to fill it out with like a paper form and do all kinds of fancy math, and or you'd hire someone to do it for you. But that's doing your taxes. When it's time to do your taxes, you're going to need a few things. The first thing you need is a W-2 form. W-2. That's not a droid from Star Wars, okay? That's the name of a form. And basically, it's a document that tells you how much money your employer paid you and also how much money they sent to the government for you already. Any other documents about your income or taxes that you've paid are also going to be handy, but your W-2 is the most important. This is a picture of a W-2. I don't care what's on this slide. The bottom line is that you need to make sure that when you get this from your employer, you keep it. Okay? Don't throw it away because you need this. And that's my advice. And then once you log on to one of those websites to do your taxes, it will prompt you to be like, look in box 1 of your W-2, look in box 3, look in box 6, and yada, 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 yada. Okay, here's a map of the income tax rates. Okay. Number 5, moving on to our tax types. Number 5 is corporate taxes. Corporate taxes is very similar to personal income tax. The only difference, of course, is that it's not a person earning income and paying tax. It's a corporation earning profit and paying tax. But it feels the same way. It's a direct tax, and again, the government has the power to do this through the 16th Amendment. Not like you really need to know that, but in case you're on Jeopardy someday, now you know. Number 6, and the final one, is Social Security tax. This is a tax that you also have to pay out of your income. You pay 50% of it, and your employer, your business or your boss, they pay the other 50%. And it is a specific tax that's used to fund the Social Security program, which maybe we've talked about, maybe we haven't, I don't remember. It's that program where the government sends a small check in the mail to old retired people and other people with disabilities who can't work once a month. And so that's an expensive program, which is why the government needs a it needs a tax that's dedicated just for this one program. I mean, they don't have a military tax, they don't have a Department of Education tax, but they do have a Social Security tax because it's super expensive and it helps us pay for that program. Okay? So, those are the 6 main types of taxes. Go back to Canvas or wherever you came from to see what else you need to do with this. Thanks, everybody. Bye.